So we continue with the talk on the platform Sutra. Today's date is February 23rd, 2025. Last time we ended on Sunday, February 16, 2025. And the last paragraph is like this. True wisdom means being objective, not subjective. For example, when practicing compassion, don't keep thinking, I'm practicing compassion. When helping others, don't keep reminding yourself, I'm practicing bodhicitta. Bodhicitta referring to the body mind. If you do, you will end up like the example of teacher's student. He was caught in a mental trap. So no two people are the same. This is interesting, of course. Everyone has different knowledge, abilities, and responses. Some differences come from education, age, or personality. Each person should take on tasks and responsibilities that suit them. That's enough. Now, this light we speak of, each of us has it. Before attaining Buddhahood, if we can reduce even a little ignorance and afflictions, we will naturally have a positive influence on others. That is light. The greater our positive influence, the brighter our light. For example, some people can say just one sentence that benefits many others. Some offer a suggestion that helps countless people. Even writing a few words or giving feedback can be a source of light for others. People with great ability and wisdom radiate great light. But even if our abilities are limited, can we still shine? Absolutely. So, reciting Amitabha Buddhas or Avalokitesvara Bodhisattva, having a kind thought, praying for the peace and well-being of others, these are all ways to radiate light. I remember when I was in Toronto working. At that time, I was a lay person. And I received this chant magazine from our chant meditation center in New York. And when I read through lines in the magazines, somehow there's something that triggers, so that although I was, working and then, having vexation here and there, and those words from our teachers that in the magazine really helped me to release burdens, release the afflictions I have. Is really helpful. Now, our teacher said that many people ask for a blessing from him. And some doubt whether these blessings work. They think that ordinary people's blessings have no effect, while only highly cultivated monks can offer effective blessings. Well, in reality, anyone's blessing is powerful as long as it is sincere. Prayers, wishes, and blessings all work because they generate a force from the heart that resonates with others. However, there are two kinds of light. One is called leaky light, or put another word, we say, with outflow. So it is limited by self-interest. The other kind is called without outflow. That means it's not leaking. This kind of light is unconditional and infinite. When ordinary people help others, they often act out of self-interest. Even when doing good deeds like saying kind words or building bridges and roads, such acts are still motivated by ego and are called leaky actions, which result in heavenly rewards. However, if we go further and help all sentient beings with selflessness and wisdom, just like the Bodhisattvas and Buddhas, this is known as non-leaking, referring to pure and unconditional light. For ordinary beings, their light is limited and leaky. But once one becomes a Buddha, the light becomes infinite and pure, which is called great radiance. So, could I ask you, do you have light within you? Of course you do. Without light, how could you have found your way here? At the very least, there are many bright lamps now existing at this moment. But remember, having a kind heart is also a bright lamp. If your kindness is sometimes present and sometimes absent, or you forget to maintain it, it's like a lamp with an unstable power source. It flickers on and off. But if you're here to listen to the Dharma, it means you have some light and goodness in you. I don't believe anyone comes here to listen to the Dharma so they can learn how to do bad things afterward. Am I right? Therefore, you are all lamps of light. However, we are small lights, not great radiance. We possess leaky light, not pure, non-leaky light. To transform leaky light into non-leaky light and to convert a flickering light into an eternal flame, we must cultivate ourselves through practice. So, to repair and refine our mind, we use the so-called contemplation, or use another name called inner observation. So contemplation can be divided into inner illumination and outer observation. For ordinary people and enlightened beings, both can observe. So let's talk about ordinary beings. If an ordinary person does not practice observation of their environment, they will frequently experience afflictions. But with contemplation, these afflictions will gradually diminish. There are many methods of contemplation, and the most fundamental is called the 5 methods of stopping the mind. These are 5 ways to stop afflictions. The first one is observing conditions, or we call it cause and effect contemplation. Now, this involves observing how life arises and ceases through conditions from the past to the present and into the future. Nothing is permanent, and there is no fixed, unchanging self. By understanding cause and effect, afflictions naturally diminish, and one attains liberation. So this is understanding cause and effect and observing there's no unchanging self, which is everything is changing, is impermanent. Then the second one is the breath counting, and use a Sanskrit name is called anapanasati, contemplation. So focus on your breath and count each inhale and exhale. The mind and breath are interconnected. When the breath is calm, the mind becomes calm. By focusing on your breathing, you can stabilize your thoughts. Gradually, your mind will become free of distractions, eventually reaching a state of no thought, where afflictions dissolve and liberation follows. Then another one is observing impurity. It's called asubha contemplation. This involves contemplating the impure nature of the body. Begin by observing your skin, then imagine the layers beneath: fat, muscles, bones, blood vessels, and internal organs. Think about how after death, the body decays and becomes foul. Even when alive, if we don't bathe for a few days, we start to smell bad. This practice helps us understand that the body is neither pure nor permanent, but rather a temporary combination of elements. When practiced successfully, this contemplation reduces attachment and afflictions, leading to liberation. So this is the third one. And the fourth one is the so-called Dhatu Vibhanga contemplation, or we use another word, discerning the elements. So this method involves observing the 18 elements, the 6 senses, the eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, and mind. So 6 senses. And then the 6 sense objects, the form, sound, smell, taste, touch, thought. And the 6 consciousness, eye consciousness, ear consciousness, and so on. So we have these 6 senses, and then it interacts with objects. Then eyes sees form, and ear hears sounds, and the nose smell, and the tongue taste, and of course the body, it's the touching, and then the mind referring to, you have thoughts. And each of them, when the eyes sees, then it leaves the image. So it's called eye consciousness. Ear consciousness will leave, you will have the sound into your mind, and so on. So by breaking down these elements and analyzing them one by one, we discover that beyond these 18 elements, there is no independent self, body, mind, or environment. Success in this practice leads to the cessation of afflictions and the attainment of liberation. So that's the fourth one. Then the fifth one is compassion contemplation. Compassion contemplation is difficult for many people because they often expect others to be compassionate toward them. Rather than cultivating compassion for others, they may think, I'm not a bodhisattva. How can I be compassionate? When you feel anger, hatred, or suspicion towards someone, you should use compassion contemplation. Contemplation, yeah. And compassion begins with empathy, understanding, and care. It involves into unconditional help and gives exactly what is needed at the right time. Well, if you cannot immediately feel compassion, try this. When you are angry or feel with resentment, tell yourself, where is my compassion? If I had compassion, I won't be angry at others. Well, someone might say, I'm sympathize with the weak, but how can I be compassionate toward someone stronger than me? Shouldn't they be compassionate toward me? That's not true compassion. True compassion is unconditional. It doesn't target only specific individual or situations. It is equal and universal. When you're angry at someone, remind yourself, I lack compassion. The moment you realize this, your mind will immediately calm down. Whether or not the other person benefits, you will benefit instantly. The first person to gain from compassion is always yourself. Now, we need to see that compassion is not foolishness, nor is it about being a pushover. Compassion must be guided by wisdom. So, one time, a young lay person asked our teacher, Master, are you compassionate? And our teacher said, I'm not fully compassionate yet. I'm learning through the Buddha's teachings. And then the person said, I need money. Can you give me some? And our teacher said, I won't give you money. If I do, I won't be compassionate anymore. And the young man argued, compassion means giving whatever others need. I need money, so you should give it to me. And our teacher replied, no, if I give you money, I will be harming you. You're not blind, deaf, or sick. You're young and healthy. You should work hard and earn your own living. Giving you money would make me unkind because it would only hurt you in the long run. Real compassion is helping you find your own path. So compassion doesn't mean blindly giving in. If someone who is more capable than you asks for something and you give it to them without questions, that is not compassion. That's foolishness. Well, as you know, in the US, especially on the street of New York City, it's common to encounter drunks, young people carrying a paper cup, standing by the roadside asking passerbys for a quarter. To buy something is not for, well, if it's to buy a drink, it's not for good alcohol, but for cheap, bad liquor. So our teacher said that when he walked down the street or sit in the car with some lay practitioner, often they come across these situations. The lay practitioner seeing me, never seeing our teacher, never give the people money. Yet, yes, the lay practitioner often hand out money to these people. One day, one of them asked our teacher, Master, Why aren't you compassionate toward these people? And our teacher said, compassion doesn't work that way. When you give them money, do you think you are helping them or harming them? And the person thought for a moment and said, if I give them money, they will just buy alcohol. And so our teacher said, is that a good thing? And the person hesitated. It's hard to say. If they don't drink, they will suffer. But if they drink too much, they will get alcohol poisoning. And since they don't work, they will remain homeless. And our teacher said, exactly. If no one gave them money, they eventually be forced to seek help at the detox center and quit drinking. They could return to a normal life. But if this person gives them a little money and that person gives them a little money, they will never go to the detox center. By giving them money, you are actually ruining their life. Then now let's come to this translation that emitting a great bright light which outwardly illuminates. Well, here I'll put it this way, is maybe better. Outwardly emitting light through the 6 gates with purity. So that's the translation. So this perspective is from the standpoint of a Buddha or an enlightened being. Earlier, we discussed the 5 methods of contemplation. We just did, right? And at the very least, you must remember the last one, compassion. So for an enlightened being or Buddha, great radiance shines outward, illuminating the 6 doors, which refers to the 6 senses: the eye, the ears, the nose, the tongue, the body, and the mind. Purifying them so they are no longer disturbed, tempted, or bound by the 6 external stimuli, referring to the form, the sound, the smell, the taste, the touch, and the thoughts. This means freedom from the 6 desires, including desires for forms, sounds, sense, tastes, and physical sensation. When we reach this state, our physical body will no longer be controlled by the external environment. At this point, we will transcend the realm of desires. While the human world is filled with afflictions, even the heaven of desire realm are not free from troubles. Although one may enjoy heavenly pleasures, the underlying afflictions remain. Only when the 6 senses are purified can we truly leave the realm of desire and be liberated from its afflictions. This so-called desire is like the nourishment for our physical senses. Without objects of desire, our 6 senses could not exist. However, if our mind is unaffected by material desires, we will no longer experience afflictions. Even though our body still lives in this world, we will not be enslaved by material pleasures. And this is what liberation means. Therefore, when it says breaking free from the sixth heaven of desire, it does not necessarily mean ascending to those heavenly realms. Instead, it means that while still living in the human world, if we are no longer disturbed by external circumstances, we have already surpassed the heavens of desire. This is a higher state than being in the heavens of desire. It is liberation and entering the realm of meditative absorptions, which is samadhi. Even though we live and interact with others in this world, if our mind is unmoved, it is as if we have already left the realm of desire and enter samadhi. So, the eye's desire is to see beautiful forms. For example, when someone sees beautiful scenery or a beautiful person, they say, "This is pleasing to the eye." Nowadays, people use this term as if it nourishes the eyes. Eye nourishment is a modern term, not a Buddhist one. In the same way, pleasant sounds nourish the ear, delicious flavors nourish the tongue, fragrant smells nourish the nose, comfortable sensations nourish the body, praises and compliments nourish the mind. For ordinary people, their six senses are nourished by desires, which result in afflictions. However, if we practice contemplation, we realize that the six sense objects, form, sounds, smells, tastes, sensations, and thoughts, are illusory. They are like mirages, fleeting and temporary. Once you recognize this, will you still be dependent on them for nourishment? No. You will still eat, listen, and see, but you will no longer be troubled, manipulated, or bound by these desires. That is liberation. So, asking you, do you already have light within you? Is it great radiance or small light? For now, it's small light, but that's good. So, hopefully, these small lights can become eternal flames, illuminate toward out, illuminate outward to purify the six senses, but also illuminate inward For true wisdom comes from inner illumination. So last time we talked about heaven. Now let's talk about hell. If you enjoy temporary happiness and blessings, believing you are truly free, that is not liberation. It's merely limited happiness. And once the blessings are exhausted, troubles will return. History and real life offer many examples of this. Someone might have great fortune, enormous power, and vast wealth. They command respect and dominate the world. But in the blinks of an eye, their power disappears, their wealth vanishes, and their influence evaporates. One morning, they might be a king in a palace, but by nightfall, they have become a prisoner in a dungeon. The freedom and luxury they once enjoyed as a king are gone, replaced by the suffering of imprisonment. Thus, worldly blessings and punishments are not true liberation. In Buddhism, ascending to heaven isn't necessarily a good thing, and falling into hell isn't is cer- and falling into hell is certainly worse. The, the human world is actually quite suitable. You can enjoy Sunday by visiting the temple to listen to the Dharma. In the human world, we can create both blessings and non-blessings while practicing the Buddhist, while also practicing the Bodhisattva path. Someone might say, the Pure Land on earth is just an ideal. It's impossible to achieve. Well, our teacher will say, that's okay. I will dedicate this life to building it. And if it's not enough, I will come back in my next life and continue. And in the life after that, I will return again. I will keep coming back and encourage more people to join me in building it. If we all work together, the human world will gradually improve. Even if our minds are not yet fully pure, it doesn't matter. The more we learn and apply the Buddha's teachings, the purer our minds will become. Encourage your friends, families, and everyone around you, whether they are close to you or strangers, to learn the Dharma and reduce their afflictions. For every afflictions we remove, we build a piece of the Pure Land. So, after hearing this teaching, don't fall into hell. Heaven is fine, but don't aim for it just yet. Let's build the Pure Land on earth first. While we are alive, we should create the Pure Land on earth. When we pass away, we can aspire to be reborn in the Western Pure Land and then return to the human world again. We don't need to stay in heaven or fall into hell. But if our practice becomes deep enough, we can go to hell to liberate beings and ascend to heaven to teach the Dharma. We won't go to heaven to enjoy blessings, nor will we go to hell to suffer. We'll go there to help others. If our practice is not yet at that level, it's best to stay in the human world for now and cultivate further. Okay, so I will stop here for now.
Well,